And we're live. Kat, thank you so much for coming into the studio today. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm really happy to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So, what's a little something that the world does not know about you? Little tidbit, little something to get to know you better right off the bat.
Sure. In the early 2000s, towards the end of college, I was writing a food blog, fattycat.com, and it was also like the start of Instagram food influencing and that sort of thing. And my food blog got advertising revenue, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be a food authority. I'm going to write about food, and I love to eat. And it was cool. It was really fun. But then I started work in startups, and it just took so much of my time. But I look back at some of the friends I developed who like immediately dropped me after I left the food scene. And I kind of look back and I'm just like, it doesn't feel so authentic. Like you're getting the free food and you're posting about it. And I think I picked the right path, but for a while I was Fatty Cat. I still am.
I remember. I kind of remember when I was a little bit younger. I feel like food blogging was like it was the thing, right?
It was the thing. And like I thought I was so cool because I figured out Squarespace and how to set up a food blog.
Maybe you were so cool.
I was so cool. I made like $20 in advertising revenue.
I mean, hey, it's more than nothing.
Yeah, but I also have a lot of friends who work in restaurants and hotels, and I've just heard mixing your passion for food with work is not a good combo. So I think I did the right thing.
I mean, it seems like you did the right thing in the end.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your first time, as you mentioned, in startups, because obviously that's a big part of your life now. How did you what were some of the first startups that you worked with?
Sure. So just backtracking a little bit, I started my career in commercial real estate.
Okay.
And so I worked for institutional investors, did asset management, acquisitions, all types of things. And real estate can be kind of boring, it's kind of repetitive. And WeWork was coming out at the time. And I was just remember watching that trajectory, that growth, and being like, co-working is so cool. I want to be a part of this. I want to, have a slide in my office. And nobody really knows this, but I would apply to so many different WeWork real estate jobs, never, ever heard back. And then I was lucky because I was working at Equinox at the time on their real estate team. And a little company called Industrious reached out to me, and they were in the co-working space, but really specializing in the premium segment. And I joined them as the first real estate hire. And then fast forward 4.5 years, hired a team of 20 plus people, led the real estate team, 10x growth, pioneered very different strategies that made us successful in the space. And Industrious is now the leader in the space. I mean, everybody knows what happened with WeWork. So it's a little, I don't really share that very much, but yeah.
And so obviously, I want to get into Stuf and what you're doing now. But how did, and I read a couple of the media kit that the person that put us in touch sent me. So that was really interesting. And then obviously took a look at your background a little bit. But, I think it's interesting. First of all, I think the concept is really interesting. But I'm more curious about how you went from that transition of, what you're talking about now to then where you're at now.
Right.
Because I think that there's obviously got to be an idea that was on the table, and then to actually execute it and grow it is a whole other thing. So, how did you get to where you are today?
It's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. I know.
I, for many years in commercial real estate, would tour these office buildings. I would tour retail, apartment buildings, and I always paid attention to basements, garages, other types of underutilized space that I was pretty bothered by the fact that it would sit empty. And that stuck with me for many years. I was so busy at Industrious. I was so busy doing all sorts of things. But when the pandemic hit, and thank God for the pandemic in a weird kind of crazy way, because it helped me reflect on my career and what I wanted to do. And so I was either, I shared this with you earlier, going to start a podcast. I was going to somehow become an expert in sourdough baking or whatever. That didn't work out. So I started exploring starting a business of my own. And initially I was really interested in ghost kitchens. So kind of an extension of that interest in food.
What is a ghost kitchen?
It's a shared kitchen, a virtual restaurant, and so delivery only.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could have a bunch of different brands operating out of the same restaurant, and
Interesting.
delivery people would come and pick it up. And so I thought that was a really good way to use underutilized real estate. But then I looked into a little bit more. I'm like, this is not a business that I want to get into. And then I thought about last mile fulfillment, and kind of the increase of e-commerce and how that's prevalent.
Right.
But then I had this spring cleaning moment last year where you clean out your closet. I remember this, clean out the closet. And I just remember staring at this pile of crap on the floor. Like I had felt good for 1 second, right? But then I just remember thinking, what am I going to do with this stuff? And it was the first time I even explored self-storage. I never thought about it. I never used it before. But in my research in this area, there is quite a bit of self-storage, but it's kind of far from my apartment. It's a little sketchy. You know, as a woman, I probably wouldn't visit it on my own. And I noticed bad reviews and just nothing was good about it. And then I thought a little bit more about the space and got back in touch with an investor I used to work with, and they helped incubate Stuf. And so I had a little bit of a safety net and a network that helped me launch into this on my own. So,
Right. So for also just to be clear for people watching or listening out there, Stuf is STUF.
correct.
And
Stuf
the
with one F.
And the website, if they want to go check it out, it's SelfStorage.com, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so what is it about underutilized spaces that bothers you?
I think it's a question of sustainability. If
Okay.
you're a developer, if you own real estate, you've purchased that real estate or you've built it and it just sits empty. It just seems like such a waste. And I started looking into self-storage development, and so much of development nowadays is ground up development. So taking good land and turning it to a place where they just where people shove their crap, right?
Right.
And so I think the interesting part about using underutilized real estate is that the spaces we're looking at are currently empty, but we can provide a neighborhood amenity that brings safer, more convenient, inviting self-storage closer to where you live or where you work. And so it makes it productive, revenue-generating space. But for consumers, it's solving a real problem that they have.
Okay, this might be a really silly question because I haven't experienced much of, like, my parents have used storage spaces, but
Okay.
I don't even think I've ever really been to a storage unit, maybe one time. Anyways, what is the difference between self-storage and any other type of storage?
Yeah, that's a good question. Self-storage is where you are in control of accessing your belongings and locking everything. You have to move everything in and out. And it's slightly different than some of the other products out there. So there's something called valet storage or on demand, where companies will come and pick up your belongings,
Okay.
take it away,
Okay.
and if you need it, bring it back to you. But self-storage is predominantly what most Americans use
Right.
if they're looking for storage solutions. And it's pretty surprising. More than 1 in 10 Americans has a self-storage unit.
Wow. So more than 1 in 10 Americans have a self-storage unit. And that means that, and those are like the places, I mean, you know, for people listening out there that are in Brooklyn, Kat and I live pretty close to each other. We won't say exactly where, but there's a lot of places that, like, let's go with like 3rd Avenue, for example, where there's like these big, I think there's 2 or 3 of them, right?
Boxes just along the highway. You just don't know what's going on.
You don't
there.
know what's going on. So when you walk into those places, because I personally haven't, it's basically like you get your unit and then you're just responsible for doing that, and you pay a monthly fee? Is that how it
You
traditionally
pay a
is?
monthly fee. There often are hidden fees, though. So
Okay.
adding on renter's insurance, adding on
Gotcha.
a lock, anything else like that. And
Okay.
that's why we have taken a different approach, all-inclusive, transparent pricing, just so you know what you're getting.
So how does it work exactly, right? I go to stufstorage.com. I say I got a couch and a TV and, you know,
You probably have way more than that.
and my dad's, like, you know, trophies from 25 years ago.
Okay.
What happens then?
We oftentimes will speak to you over the phone.
Okay.
A lot of customers have questions about sizing, and so they're thinking, okay, for my dad's trophies and this couch and whatnot, do I need a small which is generally like 4x5, 5x5.
Okay.
Do I need something in the medium range or even larger? And so we really help advise them and take a pretty high touch approach to even that booking process. But once they've booked, we will onboard them. So we'll share a link to our mobile app.
Okay.
They'll register. They'll have to upload a member selfie so that we have, we can ensure security throughout the location. And they'll use that mobile app to enter and exit the space. So they don't have to interact with anybody. It's touchless, keyless, all that. And when you're on site and moving your items in, we have beautiful, warm, inviting spaces, so it feels nice. But we also have on-site amenities that help you during the move. So that might be like carts to make moving easier, or tape or boxes or things like that.
Okay, so you guys have, I think I was reading, locations right now in 4 places, or
4 markets.
4 markets.
Yeah.
So but your actual physical locations, that's the part that I want to understand. What do those look like?
It's interesting. We have everything from basements in office buildings to ground floor retail spaces, as well as apartment like ground floor spaces. So we're in different types of buildings and neighborhoods.
So there's the first step where, like, say I'm a building owner and I know that I have X amount of space available that I just never use.
Yeah.
I reach out to Stuf. I say, hey, I have this space.
Yeah.
How can we utilize it? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So Stuf is really serving 2 sides.
Right.
So the end user and the landlords. And when we work with landlords, we pretty much say, let us do everything. So we just need to see the space. We need some general information about it, and we can design what we think, what the layout's going to look like, how many storage units, design the entry and access path for our customers. And we'll actually spend the capital to set up the storage spaces and manage operations, sales, and everything.
Wow. So you guys have to obviously see the space, approve it, because there's probably a whole host of different issues that can happen in a space. And then you guys, so then, like, say you have like a very standard room or a basement. What kinds of things are you installing in there?
So we're installing steel storage units. So really simply, they are just tracks on the floor, and we set up steel panels and doors in the sizes that we think that neighborhood might need. And then in the spaces themselves, we'll ensure there's warm lighting. We'll even install, like, we're starting to think through sensors, humidity sensors, flood sensors, things like that, to ensure really streamline operations in the space. And throughout the location, you'll notice hospitality-inspired touches. So we're taking a note from hotel lobbies that feel warm, that might have a little seating area, that might have some nice branding or like textured walls and things like that, which you would just never find in a self-storage unit. Maybe one day you and I will walk into one of these places in Brooklyn, but it's just not what you're finding today.
Interesting. And so for you, so then basically, say I am that building that's gonna, I guess, in a sense, rent out my space to you. You guys will then pay the building. Is that how it works for their space?
We pay the building, but we only pay them through revenue share. So if we make $1, we're sharing 25, 35% or 35 cents of that dollar with owners. So we're never paying fixed rent like a normal lease.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that would probably get pricey.
Yeah.
And so then, interesting. And so what's like the average cost for, someone who's listening right now who wants to self-store their things at Stuf?
Yeah.
With the different sizes.
Yeah. In Brooklyn, if you wanted a 5x5 storage unit, so an extra closet, you are paying anywhere from $150 to $175 per month. And I love sharing this story about one of our customers who lives, I think, a block or 2 from our Brooklyn location in Clinton Hill near the Navy Yard.
Okay.
And she emailed us after moving in and said, I love you guys. You saved me $15,000. And we're like, how did we save you $15,000? And she said, I'm a small business owner. I have a lot of inventory at home that I keep in my second bedroom. And because you're so close by and you're so easy to access, and I can actually go to you on my own, I didn't need to rent a second bedroom in my new place. So in that way, you saved us
Wow.
$15,000. And that's a story I always think about
Right.
and go back to, because we always talk about stuff being that extra closet, but it really played out for this one customer.
Wow. And so do you know what like the industry average might be for that same kind of 5x5 storage unit?
Yeah, it's a little lower. So we price at a slight premium. In some markets, new markets that we're in, we'll price on par. But for that same unit, it's probably in the 120 to 150
Okay.
range.
But you guys pride yourself on, the other,
Yeah,
on like the sustainability, and just kind of like the better service and experience overall,
yeah,
it seems, right?
exactly. And one thing about self-storage that people don't talk about is they tend to be in these vulnerable, stressful situations
Right.
when they're using self-storage. So they're moving, which is always stressful, or they had a breakup, or
Yeah.
a grandparent passed away, or maybe their business isn't doing well and so they have to downsize. There's obviously positives to all of these, but because of those situations, we realize, okay, there's a way that we can take care of our members when they are in stressful situations. So I don't think it's something that more traditional operators have really catered towards.
Okay. And are there minimums for the people that are trying to rent out their space, as to like, it has to be X amount of square feet?
We generally look for at least 2,000 square feet, just so
Okay.
we can install enough storage units that it makes sense. So anywhere from 2 to 10,000 square feet, generous ceiling heights, easy access into and out of the building. And we love having direct street level access, but we can also have customers go through a common corridor for 30 seconds or something like that. So we have a lot of information that we have on our website. So if anyone listening, they can reach out.
I'm curious as to most of the people that, most of your customers, if you know this, how many times, maybe a month on average, would you say that they're going to go to their unit?
It's so bizarre. So we have some customers that go every single day, and those
Oh,
are
you got to
small
be a little,
business
oh, okay,
users.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Uh,
someone who's very paranoid.
so paranoid. We have this one, I can't remember the name, famous YouTube hairstylist,
Okay.
and they put their equipment in our space.
Wow.
So that's like just a really interesting story. But then we have customers who drop their stuff off and don't show up for 12 months because they just need a place to store their belongings while they're moving or whatever it is. So there's certainly people in between, but I think it really skews one of those two extremes for the most part.
Interesting. And so I guess technically, as long as you guys approve it, any space that's, as you said, like in the 2,000 square feet minimum, um, that's, I'd imagine, pretty clean and standard, uh, you guys can work with.
We can work with, and we love being near residential neighborhoods
Okay.
just so we can serve people closer to home. But we can also make it work in downtown central business districts as well. Because, like I mentioned, businesses are often looking for storage. So I've been, I've just been surprised by the business and then the types of customers that are using it. I just assumed it would be mostly residential. But so I learn a little bit more every day.
What are the biggest surprises other than the differences in clientele?
It's the small business users, and for me, what I've learned is that there's so many businesses out there that aren't ready to rent their own office space
Okay.
or have a warehouse or
Right.
something like that. And especially during the pandemic, everyone had the side hustle.
Right.
So everyone started some like e-commerce store or
Mhm.
brand or whatever. And I think that's why we've noticed this uptick versus what we expected. And a lot of these businesses rely on self-storage as like a helping them get their businesses started.
So for you, when did you start stuff?
Mid last year.
So mid 2020.
Yeah.
So
We have 7 locations now.
wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And so when you say 7 locations though,
Mm-hmm.
that means 7 like big unit places that Is that what you define
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
location?
yeah, exactly. So 7 distinct locations, 7 addresses.
And how big are those spaces?
They vary. We have everything from 1,500 square feet, our first location, to 8,000 square feet. So they're getting larger, and the groups that we're working with are more credible, legit, have national portfolios, and so I'm lucky because I can leverage some of the relationships I've had from before.
And so with the revenue share business model for the person, I guess in a sense, not giving, you know, utilizing their
Yeah.
space, um, have you found that it is more like, would they be making more money per se if they were renting out their space as a fixed monthly rate, or is it more beneficial for them, you know, in a say in an 8,000 square foot place, to be getting a part of the revenue?
Most of the spaces we're considering, the landlords tell us this has been unoccupied for years.
Wow. Okay.
There's not been anything here for a while. Occasionally, some of those spaces have been used for tenant storage, but they're charging a fraction of the price that we charge. And so, in working with us, they're able to generate revenue that they hadn't seen before, and additionally, they don't have to spend any capital to see that. So, the comparison is like, you know, revenue share from stuff versus zero,
So
which is
how long
nice.
does it take, like, say, first of all, how long does it take once you get into the space to like set it up?
Yeah, it's fast. It's 2 to 3 weeks to get set up, and that's assuming we've purchased all the materials, done the right planning. There is, however, I don't know if you're reading the news, like the lumber shortage, the
Yeah,
chicken
yeah.
shortage, the steel shortage.
I
So
hear it's
that
quite
is,
pricey.
yeah, that's hitting us, not only in terms of
Wow,
cost,
yeah.
but also delays. And I just never thought my life would be affected by like
Lumber
a
prices.
chicken shortage or
Yeah.
a steel shortage.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, so it takes a few weeks, and then how long does it take to, I guess maybe say for like a 2,000 square foot
Mhm.
space for it to fill up?
Well, our Brooklyn location, we opened January 1st of this year,
Okay.
and we
That's
got
full.
to 90% occupancy in 5 months. Really,
Wow.
really fast. And
Wow.
there is a ton of demand,
And
especially
where is that
for,
one Oh, you said that one's near Navy Yard?
yeah, 15 Vanderbilt Avenue. So right in Clinton Hill. You
Okay.
know where that Russ and Daughters is?
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. Okay. And so it's at 90% capacity. And
Well, now there's, I think, one
how
unit
many
left.
units are there in that?
There are 53.
53 and about you said 1,500, 2,000 square foot place?
It's about a little over
A
2,000.
little over 2,000. 53 units.
Yeah.
Wow.
53 people who need storage, and there's actually a wait list for some
There's a
units.
wait
Yeah.
list. And so, do you find it challenging to find new spaces?
No, because that's my strength. That's my experience for many,
Right.
many years. And
Right.
so having been on the ownership side,
Interesting.
I get into their psychology, their brain, and having worked in real estate for a long time, I've just developed relationships where initially it was like, I don't know what stuff is. Sounds cool, but I know you, Kat.
Right.
So we'll work with you.
Yeah.
And we're now at a point where we have 7 locations and then a pipeline of 30 to 40 locations.
Wow.
So I really need to do some hiring
Yeah.
so it's not just me working on it.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to, where can people can apply?
Please apply. Yeah.
Where can they apply?
StufStorage.com. Careers,
StufStorage.com.
please.
Wow. And so in a space that's over 2,000 square feet, I don't know, and if you're comfortable sharing this, how much would you say that the person that's renting out that space is probably going to be making a month, assuming full capacity?
It depends on the location. So in real estate, we often talk about rent per square foot.
Right.
And so in New York, it's anywhere from like $12 to $20 per square foot per year. And so let me think. They could be making like $40,000, $50,000 on a 2,000 square foot space.
So that means what?
Doing nothing.
On a 2,000 square foot space, so that's about 4,000 somewhat dollars a month.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and that's for literally doing nothing.
Doing nothing. And then for larger spaces, which we're now going towards, I mean, it's just upwards like 100,000, 200,000. Some of the deals that we're now negotiating are, the landlords are getting 250,000 and not having to do anything.
Yeah, they really do nothing.
Yeah, that's the beauty.
And I'm wondering, I mean, yeah, and then I guess well, I guess it depends then, because so you said they're mostly just spaces that have never really been touched before.
If you have a basement somewhere, let me know.
It's funny. I mean, we'll talk off air. There's a few things that I'm thinking about, but yeah, I mean, I think that the premise is well, it's brilliant in a way, and it's also I mean, I can think of so many different stories of you hear these landlords that like just either some just have too much money for their own goods, so they don't care about renting their space.
Yeah.
And you guys seem like you handle everything A to Z, so it's just like, all right, maybe they're making slightly less than market value if they were to search out a commercial, a commercial restaurant or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's zero headaches with what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So, and do you sign contracts with them for a certain amount of time?
Generally 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes with extension options. And what you were talking about with these landlords, I think the pandemic was really this chance for them to kind of become a little bit more, or gain some more humility, right? It was a really challenging time. And it was also a really good time for us to launch because they were much more open to hearing about what we're doing and working with us.
Right. And do you find that, so do you have to be like a member of Stuf? How's that work?
Yeah, we call all of our customers members, and
But there's no actual like monthly membership?
There's the monthly membership fee. It's a subscription.
Okay.
It's month to month. So if they want to cancel for the next month, they just have to do it within some prior notice period.
And how much is it?
There's no termination fee.
Oh no, but like that subscription fee.
Oh, it's just the $175 per month.
Okay, it's for the unit.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they can. So there's no contract in that sense. Where I mean, they have to terminate within a certain amount of time, but there's like you're not set to be there for a year or two or whatever it is.
No, we might get to a world where we have a different pricing strategy, but for now, a lot of our customers really appreciate the flexibility that we provide, and it's interesting. They often will say, "Oh, I'm just going to be there a month."
Right.
Then it's 2 months.
Yeah.
Then it's 4 months.
I feel like
then it's 12 months.
I feel like everybody does that.
Yeah, because people just have too much stuff.
They have too much stuff, and then especially if it's affordable, which it is, and the headache of moving, and I've never heard of someone who just needs storage for like a month, really. And it always turns out to be at least a couple months.
Yeah.
And so for you, like, so for you as a CEO,
CEO.
What's the day to day?
Every day is so different.
Yeah.
And I describe it in terms of highs and lows. And I don't mean emotionally. I mean in terms of a couple of weeks ago, I was like sweeping the floors and putting decals up in one of our locations to make it beautiful and decorate the space. And other days I'm talking to high-flying investors who are like, I want to put money in, and I'm negotiating those terms. And last week I did a Yahoo Finance video interview. And so the extremes of being an early stage CEO, co-founder is really fun. I thrive in that type of like that broad range of work, and it's I think my team feels it the same way. We're so knee deep, but at the same time, just like celebrating the wins.
How many people are on the team so far right now?
We have 5, unless people apply after listening to this.
Hopefully it gets to like 10, 15, 20.
Actually, no, we have 6. Someone just accepted an offer today.
Wow.
I forgot.
Well,
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So you were the like original, you didn't have like a co-founder that you did it with?
I actually did have co-founders.
Okay.
So the company was incubated by one of our investors.
Right. Okay.
And I was still holding down my last role as VP of Real Estate at Industrious. And so my co-founders and / investors were kind of managing a lot of the day-to-day initially.
Gotcha.
And so when I finally pulled away from Industrious, they were like, we're done with this. Here you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
I had the support.
You had the support, but still, I mean, so you have 7 locations and just now 6 people. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And
it's a lot of square footage for such small amount of people.
It is. But when you think about the other 30 locations we have in the pipeline,
Right.
it's like a terrifying excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, but the people that like build the physical location are just like side.
Not necessarily. We have someone on our team who oversees design and construction.
Okay.
He does contract out with
Gotcha.
other groups, but I feel fortunate because I've been in a similar situation before where it was just astronomical network growth.
Right.
And I'm not so much fazed by it the way I was the first time. I remember the first time I was like, this place is insane. What we're doing is insane.
Yeah.
Is it possible? And now I'm just like kind of chill with it because I've been there.
Right. And so it's been, so you said mid 2020 is when you started.
Yeah.
So it's like a 1-year anniversary right now.
I didn't even celebrate. Oh,
You didn't celebrate?
no, I need to.
Was it June, July?
It was actually May.
It was May, so it's
Yeah.
like a 14-month anniversary. Right
Yeah.
now. Wow. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, did you think 14 months ago you'd be in this position?
No, I was trying to bake sourdough bread and it
Yeah.
was so bad.
Wow. I think this is a little bit better than sourdough bread. Because
Yeah.
you can at least make the sourdough bread now still, but
I
also have a
can't.
whole company.
I
Maybe
can't.
not.
I just
but
buy it now.
Just buy it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably better. Interesting. Wow. And so what are the, I mean, where do you feel like you're still need to strengthen up?
I find hiring so challenging. And I think that might be the climate right now where
Interesting.
last year was really difficult, right? With layoffs and everything. But now all these companies are on a growth trajectory and they're hiring. And with only a few people on the team
Mhm.
and leading hiring for the company, it's a full-time job. It really takes up a lot of time. And you want to find the right team members with the right attitude and experience and willingness to learn and grow. And that's been the most challenging, is just finding the time to find to build the right team.
Okay, so I'm in my last year of college. I have a lot of friends that are also in the similar position as I am. What kinds of jobs are you particularly searching for?
I'm really looking for, it's so hard because you just want smart people who are willing to learn and grow. And so I don't want to call it a chief of staff, but like a business ops manager or something kind of general, because they're going to be doing everything from like helping with member experience to reporting and setting up a data dashboard to updating our website or building new digital products. So I think that kind of chameleon type role is one that I found really challenging to hire for. Also trying to hire for a real estate manager who can help take over the supply growth and supply acquisition. And who else are we looking for? We just hired someone today, so I think that's really exciting. But we'll be posting more in the near future.
Okay, and so it's mostly to to kind of take over the day-to-day responsibilities. I guess, or maybe takes hopefully some of them off of your plate.
Hopefully.
What do you
there.
ultimately hope that your role is as CEO in the day-to-day?
I think I'm going to be responsible for four things a year from now. So really setting the vision and the strategy for the company and making sure that the growing team is all aligned there. I think it's hiring great, excellent people and making sure that they have a path to grow at Stuf. And then the third is probably really around culture and making sure that it's a fun work environment, that people are getting out of it what they're putting in. And then lastly, it's probably the most important that founders talk about is fundraising, making sure that there is cash in the bank to continue growth and to make responsible financial decisions.
Have you found it an easy pitch to investors?
I think relative to other founder experiences, I have, because the experience of having too much stuff or the experience of using self-storage is a very common one. So when you describe it to an investor, they're like, oh, I remember in college that like sketchy self-storage unit I had, or, oh my God, I used this storage group and they like messed up something. And so it's just something that is really relatable.
But also from a business model standpoint, have you found that it's a pretty easy sell?
Yes. And a lot of it is due to the business model that we structured with landlords, so revenue shares,
Right.
which
That's interesting.
which is a really risk mitigating type of business structure.
For you guys.
For us as a business.
For you guys, so I mean, I guess the landlords are the ones that are taking a little bit more risk because, like, you know, in worst case scenario where it's not filled up as it should be, then they're going to be making a little less. However, as you kind of noted, it is still, I mean, at least so far, generally spaces that have been underutilized anyways that aren't making $1. So correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right. And self-storage is consistently one of the best performing asset classes in real estate.
Interesting.
Because it is so stable. It performs well in both good and bad economic environments. So like after the recession or even in thriving times, it's pretty consistent, whereas retail is not, office is not. And so landlords, they generally understand that.
Now, do you think that there's a world in which you would buy, or Stuf would buy, perhaps like a legitimate piece of property or land, and just, you know, make a 5-story, 10,000 square foot place?
Where I sit today, likely not, but I can imagine partnering with a real estate owner who buys the real estate, and we serve as their operator, as the brand on the space. And I would really only want to do it if it's existing space that we can make better and improve.
Gotcha. Because you still want to stay under the, like, because then you would just be kind of doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And actually, so I guess this is going to sound really boring, but at my first job, I worked at Prudential Real Estate Investors, so their institutional investment arm. And my fund owned a massive, like a $2 billion self-storage portfolio.
Wow.
And they contracted that entire portfolio out to one of the leading traditional operators. And I don't see any reason why Stuf can't be there in a few years. Because I really see us as the modern it brand in the space. It just doesn't exist. And I think about us the same way that Casper reinvented mattresses, which is, mattresses are boring.
Yeah, quite boring.
Yeah. And
well, I mean, yeah, when you think of self-storage, it's not like the most sexy industry ever.
Yeah.
But it does sound, first of all, it sounds, from a profitability standpoint, I can definitely, I mean, you know, probably 100 times better than I do, but I can tell that it's definitely a very safe business model. But also, yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many, it really does seem like the most boring kind of.
So boring.
Yeah,
mattresses
it's just
are boring.
storage.
And you know Quip, that toothbrush company?
Yeah.
Toothbrushes are boring.
Oh, yeah, I mean, super boring. You're never excited to see your toothbrush. I mean,
and so the way we're messaging and positioning ourselves is such that we become a home organization service. So our vision is ultimately that we can enable people to live easier and more organized lives because we're nearby, because we're convenient, because we're offering warm, inviting services. And the self-storage has never been sold that way. It's always been like, oh, here's a place where you just lock up your stuff. It's never something that's going to make your life easier.
That is interesting. Now, did you mention something about an app in the beginning? And that's, so how's the app work? It's already up and running?
It's up and running, and we're starting to add new features, but the minimum viable product is essentially access control. So our customers can use the app to get in and out of buildings in the network. So if they have a location, or if they have a storage unit at 15 Vanderbilt, they just tap their phone, and they don't even need to tap their phone. They just have to have their phone nearby, and the door will automatically open for them. And so if you're thinking about customers moving in and out constantly, it's so much more convenient that the door just opens for them.
Right.
And we are also starting to take on member photos and track all access history that we've logged in a dashboard that we share with our landlord partners. And we share it because they deserve to know who's coming in and out of their buildings. And for security reasons, we want to make sure that our customers are the people that are coming into and out of the spaces.
Right. And I feel like, well, let me think, what else would I want on my Stuf app? I'm thinking maybe one day, like the, and I know Josh uses this for here, but like the little Ring cameras. I don't know if that's something you guys have thought of.
We thought of cameras For
Because I
sure.
don't know. I mean, like sometimes I get paranoid when I have my valuables.
Yeah.
So just like being able to check on it really quick. And I think the app thing I think is very cool though,
Yeah.
because especially in our generation, um, I imagine most of these storage places right now don't have nifty little apps.
Yeah.
Um,
We thought about cameras because customers can keep an eye out
right.
on their belongings, like you said. And there are, I think we have one customer who's a sneakerhead. And sneakers are
Right. Oh
expensive,
yeah.
right?
Oh, and
So,
they're probably extra paranoid.
yeah, they're extra paranoid. And one thing that we've been exploring is what's it called? Like visual recognition or virtual recognition. So a lot of our customers want help with sizing up the storage unit that they want.
Okay.
And imagine using your phone, taking a photo of a pile of stuff and being like, stuff, what do I need? And then the app could say, okay, you need this. And we can send you moving boxes. We can send you tape. We can send you whatever.
I didn't think about that.
So it's just like cool because we can actually customize a solution for you.
Do you think that in the future there's going to be like a movers branch of stuff?
I think it's tough because moving companies or logistics companies, their margins are really thin. And so you need the movers, you need the trucks, you need warehouses and stuff like that. But I can imagine us partnering with a really, really best-in-class moving company to offer a same level of service.
And so for you, I mean, just from like the logistical side of starting a startup, what have been the biggest challenges and things you've learned?
The most annoying thing is registering your business in a state. It's
Okay.
like getting the LLC. And then if you, we have an employee who lives in New Jersey. And so I had to register the business in New Jersey. And then we have another team member who's in Salt Lake City. And so I had to register the business in Utah. And
why do you have to register the business just because there's one person that lives there?
One person lives there. And so
So you might have to do that for like all 50 states at one point.
Maybe. But the government does not operate at a startup speed. So
oh, no. I'm not surprised.
So it's just so frustrating because I am just like, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah.
Wow. And so like the early days though, it was just you and the people that you previously kind of worked with.
Yeah.
And like, what were you grinding like every day? So you were still working though.
Yeah. And it was really tough to balance both.
Right.
But when I started doing this totally dedicated full time, I mean, our website was terrible. And we didn't have any financial reporting and we had no marketing. And so slowly finding a graphic designer, developing brand guidelines, getting a logo, finding a web developer. Like, I just never, these are the things that people don't tell you about founder life, that there's so much that goes into even just getting set up before you're even off and running.
And marketing wise, where do you feel like you guys are at right now?
We are in the early days. And so initially we thought, okay, paid search, paid social. If we just advertise on Google or Facebook, that's how we're going to get customers. But we quickly learned it's just a really competitive space. And a lot of other companies have much bigger budgets. So we've actually been pretty scrappy with it. So flyers, postcards, mailers, partnering with moving companies in the area or partnering with apartment buildings. So we're trying to get to the demand closer to where it starts. And that has been successful for us because we are a hyper local business. And a lot of our customers come from within like a 3-block radius, at least in New York or San Francisco.
I don't know. I feel like I could picture, I mean, I don't want to say I'm anti-TikTok, but I could see like a little TikTok, like, I don't know if you've ever been on TikTok.
I don't even know how to use TikTok.
Okay, no, it's probably good. It's probably good. It's probably the most addictive app on the internet. But I will say, for all of its flaws, I could so see like a little 10, 50, they have these like sponsored videos that are from these larger companies that, throw money. They have their, whatever ad they're running. And just like a very brief 10, 15-second video on stuff. And because I could so see that as, and I think for my generation, that's, we're part of this younger generation that we want everything on the apps, on the
Yeah.
phones. We want it to be easy because we're lazy.
Yes.
And, if you can afford storage in that price range, then you'll probably, there's no reason that someone my age or even myself wouldn't use Stuf as opposed to another company.
Yeah, and we've seen that in certain markets, like Brooklyn skews a little younger, whereas in Oakland we're starting to see people a little older, like in their 40s or
Interesting.
50s. So I think TikTok, I'll have to learn it eventually. But I do think it's a very viable
It's a huge
platform.
tool. It's a huge tool.
Yeah, and you can make it fun and relatable.
For sure.
We've been doing things on like videos on Instagram, and I think 90% of customers are watching the whole video, or 90% of whoever watches it through to the end.
Interesting.
Which online, like, no one has enough of an attention span.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Even if it's a 15-second video. I think that, again, because it's not like no one's gonna open up Instagram to go see about their self-storage, right?
Yeah.
But that's not to say that, like, I know for myself, sometimes when I see those, and Facebook, Instagram, they're super sneaky about how they get their ads in, because the thing that I just searched on Google 2 minutes prior shows up exactly on my Instagram feed right then. But I will say, though, it is, they're the best at what they do, but it's effective in that, if I'm just thinking about storage because whatever I have to go move, and I see a 10, 15-second video, I could definitely see why myself and all of the people that I know would definitely, go in and check out, an app that stuff that when it's right in front of you.
Yeah, I'm a highly influenced person.
Yeah,
so.
I think we all have become that.
Yeah, so it definitely does work.
And so for you, so it's been about 14 months. What would 3 years look like, or 5 years, or 10 years down the line?
I think we will launch new types of products.
Okay.
So not just opening storage locations, but I think our experience building out our own operating platform in-house, we were just like, all the technology that we've come across is so poor. It's just so dated. And so it feels like it's like 20 years old. And so there might be something there for us to think through, like a digital product, like an operations product for the self-storage industry. Or, we've been exploring last mile fulfillment and kind of these Amazon locker type products that naturally we have the real estate. So we could even experiment with something like that in our locations. And kind of like the most far-fetched thing or far-flung thing is a consumer products company. I just think about our mission to enable easier and more organized living. And it could be something like the Container Store, or, like offering different consumer products that help people achieve that. So I think self-storage is just the beginning. I think it's just scratching the surface of allowing people to live easier and more organized lives. But there's so many options for us out there.
If I told you 10 years ago you'd be a CEO of a self-storage startup, what are you saying? What are you saying to me?
I was grumpy. I was like, no, I'm going to do my food blog. I'm going to be a famous Food Network, whatever star. Because at the time, my job in real estate I wasn't doing anything interesting or new.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was doing a lot of repetitive tasks. But I'm so glad I stuck with real estate because I love real estate. It's real. I can touch it, feel it. I feel people engage with it, and it makes me happy.
What was the reaction of your friends and family when you told them you're quitting your job to have a self-storage startup?
Friends, supportive.
Family, not so much?
Family, like immigrant parents, came here, worked, hustled from China in the 80s. And they're like, wait, you're going to quit your like great benefits, your high salary job to do self-storage? What is self-storage? But I think ultimately they were really supportive. And it came from a place of, they were entrepreneurs when I was growing up. They had 3 failed businesses, and I feel like They were just like, don't go down that path. We've been there. It's been really tough. And for me, Stuf is a little bit of a redemption. Like, I grew up here. I've had all the resources of an American education. So many things afforded to me that it's a redemption in that, they couldn't make it work, but I'm going to make it work for them.
How do you, on a personal level, kind of stay sane on the day-to-day?
I started meditation.
Oh, that's funny. On my, I had another startup CEO in here. Geez, it must have been 3 or 4 days ago. Who said the same exact thing?
It's a thing, and
that's what I hear.
It's a thing. You should do it if you
okay,
haven't.
So I ask each of the people that tell me they meditate, what does meditation look like for you?
Meditation is, for me, it always happens after a workout. So I'll do a workout, and then my body and my mind will like have slowed down, like will have tired out.
Yeah.
And then I sit somewhere in my apartment that's quiet. I close the door, and I play this like really fluffy music that's like Zen and whatever.
From the Calm app?
From
Spotify?
I actually use Peloton meditation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I usually will pick the motivational music or the energizing
And you
music.
go for how long?
I'll go for 5 to 10 minutes.
And you just close your eyes?
Close my eyes, I breathe, and it really feels good afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
So other than that, how else do you stay sane? That's only 5-10 minutes. Is that enough?
I've been better about kind of stop working at call it 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m., whereas I probably go like a little later other nights. And I am trying to see friends more and more now that like everything's open, because it forces me to not work, and it forces me to like catch up with people, and also just learn from other people, from interactions and things like that. But I think working out, meditation, making time for friends, family, that's it. I've mostly devoted everything to stuff.
So you wake up generally what, 6, 7?
No, I'm not 8? That good.
Okay,
7:30.
So, but you're still going what, like 7:38 to 11?
Yeah, but I eat and I will turn off.
Good. Yeah. I mean, so those are long days.
Yeah.
Worth it.
I don't find it exhausting.
Wow. Well, that's good.
I don't find it exhausting. I think it's actually a lot of fun. And if I am exhausted, I know, okay, I just need to stop right now.
And for, people listening out there that are curious and maybe want to start a startup one day, what do you advise them?
I advise that a lot of times you'll get a lot of opinions from friends, investors, advisors, everybody. And so I think it's very easy, especially earlier in your career, to be driven by that advice one way or another. And oftentimes you have to ask yourself, okay, is this the right thing for the business? What do I think?
Right.
And therein lies the answer. And oftentimes the advice will be good advice. Oftentimes it's totally wrong.
Right.
And I've just been, that's been an experience for me over the last year, just finding that my own kind of direction with all that noise.
And do you, when it comes to investors, do you have how did it happen, I guess, in the beginning? And do you kind of consistently try to fundraise?
I'm really lucky. I'm very, very lucky. And I often meet founders or read stories where they're pitching for they pitch 200 investors and maybe one's interested. My experience was different because I had worked with a VC at my last job, and Adam from Wilshire Lane Partners used to work at that VC. So he and I kept in touch. And when I was so obsessed with ghost kitchens last year, or virtual kitchens, I connected with him because he had invested in a few of those companies. And Wilshire Lane ended up incubating Stuf. So he's also great because he knows so many other investors, and so was able to really lead the seed investment and pull different potential investors. And even from that point forward, in terms of my conversations with investors, I think I've been really fortunate to have a lot of groups interested in the concept because they're just like,
Right.
it's so simple. Like,
Yeah.
why hasn't this existed before?
Wow.
So
So you never had like did you allow like friends and family to invest if they so chose?
yeah, we are open to it in our next round.
Okay.
So we are probably going to raise our Series A later this fall.
Okay.
So it's just starting to ramp up some of those conversations, but definitely planning on having a strategic friends, family group.
And so when you get to a, is there like I know you have 30 or 40 locations kind of coming soon, but you know, is there a target number by X time?
Yeah.
How's that work?
I would love to I want to be at 50 locations by the end of 2022.
50 locations by the end of 2022.
Yeah. And I think once you get to 50, you're like, okay, I have some critical mass here.
Right.
This is not a fluke.
And you're talking about big locations. These are not.
Yeah, they're starting to get bigger.
Yeah.
So like now closer to 10,000 square feet each. And in those 50 locations, we will be in different markets as well. So not just the 4 that we're in today, but many more down the road. And I just look at the last 6 months where from January to June, we 3x'd our number of customers. Wow. We've 3x'd our revenue. And I'm just so excited about what's ahead because if that was the last 6 months, we're going to have a lot more firepower.
Right.
Going forward.
And I'm thinking, so we were talking about this really before we went on air, but, like I personally think it's super interesting to hear you talk about not just your business, but kind of your experiences. And I do think that, you had mentioned having an interest in starting a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, these days everyone has a podcast and yada yada, but I do think that it offers some very interesting perspective on your background, and I think you should do it. Why not?
I have a friend who did it, and she started a podcast
About?
for Asian American stories.
Okay.
And just with George Floyd last year, the attacks on Asian Americans last year and this year, and like continued
right.
Like racist issues just coming up across
Mm-hmm.
the country, it just motivated me to think about, okay, maybe I should start a podcast. But there was not a topic I felt like I could create a lot of new value that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
out there or wasn't being covered. So I'm thinking about it. I
don't know. I think, because even when people ask me, like, what's this about? I tell them, like, I really like to kind of pick the brain of my guest and kind of, understand how they got to where they are today. I'm younger, so for me, everyone that I have on is in the professional space and has a career behind them. And so that stuff I find fascinating. But, it sounds like you have a lot of very interesting people in your life and a lot of very good stories. So I don't know. I just feel like it's also super insightful to hear, and I'm sure people that would listen to you would follow your trajectory from, where you are with stuff now and maybe in 5 years. And I don't know, could be interesting.
might have more content in a couple of years.
Maybe. But I do think also it's super interesting just because the startup world is I'm really quite far removed.
Yeah.
But I've had a good amount of different CEOs from different startups. And, you see the similarities and the differences. And, it's competitive.
It's addicting.
I think that's a good word to...
It's really addicting. And I think if I were ever to start a personal podcast, it would be in that sort of space. But we'll see.
Do you feel like overall you said it doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work because I created it.
Right. See, that's where I think you differ from a lot of the people that I've had on. And it's not to say that they don't enjoy what they do, because they do. But I guess it seems, well, I won't speak for them, but it seems very much like there were more of those very, very tedious moments where it felt like work.
Yeah.
So I guess it's refreshing, and I'm happy to hear for you that it feels less like work and more like fun.
There are moments where it feels like work for sure, but I would say for the most part, I really like building things.
Mm-hmm.
And so perhaps in this period of time, it feels a little less like work because everything's creation and creative and strategy and all that. But I think it's just fun, and I might have a higher pain tolerance. I have worked very hard starting in college. I had like 3 jobs going at a
Wow.
time,
What were they?
or like 2 jobs and an internship going. But I was a bartender for 4 years. I was a greeter at the Plaza Hotel for
Wow.
event like these fancy weddings.
Okay.
I also had so many different internships working at hotel companies.
You went to NYU, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, very cool.
yeah, and real estate internships and things like that. And I just remember that was a lot of fun because I was learning and doing a lot of different things. I was making a lot of money as a bartender, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because I just went so hard in college that it's been more consistent for me versus starting a startup and having it feel like too much.
Do you think ever of the exit strategy?
I haven't thought about it at all, but I've
Interesting.
been getting a lot of questions about it
Yeah.
recently. And so there's so many options. It's
Right.
so soon to say, but I just know that we're so early in our journey that
Right.
it's not the right question to be asking.
Right.
But ultimately, there needs to be, a future path for us, whether that's not necessarily an exit, but we achieve a certain milestone, or we, there is an IPO or an M&A or whatever. So yeah, well, we'll see.
Do you feel like some of, or have you noticed perhaps that some of these other local self-storage companies have taken notice?
They have taken notice. We
I'm sure they're not too
noticed.
pleased.
I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
how they feel, but we just noticed in some of their ads, the word stuff is starting to appear, and it's never appeared
Oh.
before because we've done
Wait,
research
so give me an
for years.
example.
Like, things, ads used to say, oh, store your belongings here. Are you moving? Put your items here. And now it's like stuff. Put your stuff here. Put your stuff there. And
With 2 Fs, though. They're still
with
keeping
two
the 2
Fs,
Fs?
with 2 Fs.
Okay.
But I just take notice of that, and
As you should.
as I should, and I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, hey, Third Avenue is competitive.
It is
You know?
competitive. There's so many self-storage facilities.
Well, yeah,
there.
especially on Third
It's
Avenue in Brooklyn. For
insane.
people who know what I'm talking about, near the Whole Foods and Park Slope, it's. I mean, there's one that's, I think 2 actually that are gigantic.
Yeah.
And and my mom, she's very French.
Okay.
She likes her style. She likes her culture. She likes things that are aesthetically beautiful. She always tells me how ugly those places are.
They are.
They
They're
I mean, they are.
eyesores.
They've got terrible colors.
Yeah.
While we're bashing them. So terrible colors. They're just not. I wouldn't want to put my stuff there. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair. And now I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes,
Did
please.
your mom grow up in the U.S. or
No,
in France?
she's Parisian, born and raised. Yeah, she
okay.
came here. She came here in 2000. And where I told you I lived, which I'm not gonna reveal right now, is that's where she first, more or less, first came here in
That's
2000
cool.
when I was born, and so yeah, so she's lived here ever since.
Okay.
She's also obviously an immigrant, and she's done very well for herself with her own businesses, and so yeah, but she wants to make sure that her neighborhood looks as beautiful as it is,
Yeah.
and so when she sees these big, colorful storage places, it's funny because I don't know if we might have storage with her somewhere, but I know it's
Oh, that's
definitely
so
not.
funny.
It's definitely not there.
Oh,
And you know what? Maybe we'll start moving it to one of your locations
would love
it
that.
sounds way better.
I would love that. I'll even help you move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm very excited to see where all this goes, for you on a personal level, on a professional level, and thank you for taking the time to come on today. An absolute pleasure to meet you. And I guess for everyone out there, stufstorage.com.
Exactly. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And just so people are out there, so if they are listening in New York, there are locations here, obviously, mostly. So there's the Brooklyn location.
Brooklyn, we're just opening a location in the East Village
Okay.
in a week. We have locations, 2 locations in San Francisco, 1 in Oakland,
Okay.
and 1 in LA that'll be opening in the next few weeks.
The next few weeks. And then of the other ones that are kind of coming soon, where are those to, if they're to just keep an eye out?
Continuing to grow in those 4 markets,
Okay.
as well as DC, Boston, and potentially Philly or San Diego. So we will be in many cities by the end of this year.
You think you're going to make your way more towards the middle Americas as well as one day?
Yeah.
I imagine you will.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there.
There's a lot of free underutilized space there.
Yeah, we're having conversations already, but nothing to announce yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And do you do any of the social medias yourself?
I do.
Plug away. I don't know if you want
on
to or not.
Instagram, NYC Fatty Cat.
there you go, NYC Fatty Cat. Beautiful.
And also follow Stuf at Store My Stuff.
Store My Stuff
on Instagram.
And then if people are definitely interested in, and I have some friends that I think could be interested in applying to work with you guys. It's stufstorage.com.
Exactly, careers page.
And then they can. Well, you'll probably be handling most of them.
Probably, yeah, pretty hands-on.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time, and I'm excited.
Thanks, Felix.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram at felix.levine, and if you have something to say, please leave a comment.